Please welcome to the stage Vercel founder and CEO, Guillermo Rauch.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Hello, San Francisco. Welcome to Ship AI 2025. Look, we didn't even have the idea for this conference until yesterday. We hosted Next.js Conf here in this very room. We talked about pages, but the world is moving from pages to agents. The industry is moving so fast, it felt obvious we needed this conference. Because we've seen this movie before. It's 2014, you're sitting down to make your website on astrophysics, your favorite subject. You've got this great idea. You start coding locally, as one does, but then you hit wall after wall after wall. Suddenly, you're spending more time wiring up routing, compilers, clusters, and more, wrestling with complexity, rather than working on the idea itself. Then the React and Next.js ecosystems emerged, and everything accelerated. The same thing is now happening with AI. Our apps are going to the next level. We're adding intelligence. At first, this felt simple. Drop in a specific models API, give it a prompt, get a response. But you aren't making one-off model calls anymore. Suddenly, you're switching models, juggling each provider's unique SDK, managing rate limits, reconciling billing systems. Who doesn't love a good billing system reconciliation? Am I right? Vercel is no stranger to this problem because we experienced it ourselves. At Vercel, we use Vercel to build Vercel, right? And we're going through the same AI transformation as every team here, but maybe a tad faster. Because when we started building V0, we felt the pain of building agents ourselves. It was all harder than it should have been. That's why we created the AI SDK. It unifies providers' APIs in a non-lossy way, not as a leaky abstraction, without reducing providers to their lowest common denominator. You get the full capabilities of the underlying models so that you can build agents with the latest and greatest tech. And through the power of open source, we were able to make this available to everyone. Now, with nearly 4 million downloads per week, AI SDK is becoming the standard way for developers to build with AI. By the way, we can hardly keep this slide up to date. That's how fast the AI SDK is accelerating. But really, it's a piece of a much larger puzzle. Every company like ours needs to run what they build at scale, in production, with enterprise-grade reliability and security. And you need to do this moving fast. So we need one platform that combines AI-first tools, security, observability, compute, and more, so that teams can build and run with AI. That's what the Vercel AI Cloud provides. A developer experience built for simplicity, so that you can quickly ship intelligent applications and agents without the burden of fighting your own infrastructure. And Ship AI isn't an event for us to just talk theory of models and benchmarks. Otherwise, we'd have called it Yap AI, but we didn't. This is about applied AI and the things that you can actually build today with the Vercel AI Cloud. If you already know TypeScript, raise your hand if you already know TypeScript. Awesome. Raise your hands at home as well. You can start building your apps using the AI SDK today. And if you know Python, raise your hands if you know Python. Get out of the room. Just kidding. We also have amazing Python support on the Vercel AI Cloud. So Vercel is ready for your AI apps too. This is all in service of enabling you to iterate quickly and streamline your business. But iteration velocity alone is not enough. Our goal is to leverage AI to unlock the fastest possible iteration velocity with the highest possible quality for your team and your products and your customers. And we're doing this at scale already. Vercel has already seen nearly 1 billion deployments and processes trillions of requests per year. And with the rise of AI, we now power over 100 billion AI calls every month and process over 2 trillion tokens. So we know what we're talking about. We've seen this in action. And today, I thus want to leave you with 2 things: what you should build with AI and how you should build with AI. So let's start with some examples, right, of the agents that we've built internally at Vercel to give you an idea of the what. First, our support agent that our customer experience team built, which immediately and drastically reduced our support ticket volume. Now this team gets to focus on the tickets that actually require human expertise. Or our deal review agent. Our go-to-market team is particularly cracked. They're building their own agents. They wanted to get insights into the deals that they've won and lost, which until this, it was a really manual process. Now they have an agent that reviews data across Salesforce, Slack conversations, sales calls, transcripts, and other data sources, and infuses it with our institutional knowledge. And last, our creative coding agent. I want to announce that we've recently achieved bun support, the fastest JavaScript runtime. And so in order to announce it, sometimes the bottleneck is just talking about it and writing blog posts and change logs. So we created an agent to help us write that first draft from the context of the conversations that we're having in Slack. And that's what gives Vercel this shipping velocity. So we covered the what, but we also need to talk about the how, because this all sounds a little amazing and theoretical. So there's not one way to do this. And to be honest, you might not even need to build anything yourself. Think of agent as a service. It's like SaaS or AS, if you will. But this is real, right? ChatGPT Enterprise, Claude Enterprise, Vercel Agent for code review, V0 for vibe coding. These are having a lot of enterprise success because they're so easy to adopt. They're off the shelf. You sign up and you're off to the races. But at least for us, pre-built, off-the-shelf agents didn't solve all of our problems or capture all of the opportunities that we have with AI. So we had to build. Agents you build will generally be bespoke to your organization, to your products, to your data, to your customers. But to get a little philosophical, what does it mean to actually be an agent? At its core, my personal definition is it's just an AI model that calls tools in a loop in the pursuit of an outcome. So I'll give you a very clear example. Take Google AI Overview. Before Google AI Overview, you were searching the web, opening a bunch of tabs, doing all the reading yourself, summarizing, extracting concepts, but this does it all for you. It's calling tools for you. It's doing, and it's giving you an outcome. Behind the scenes, this is just good old technology, right? Queues, cron jobs, workflows, web servers. But the problem is that agents are a very specific kind of workflow. And so no matter what they do, they generally follow a life cycle when running that we can describe as follows. First, an agent accepts prompts. Then it intelligently reasons with context and plans to some extent. Then it acts through tools, repeating steps as needed. Sometimes this is an actually fixed sequence of events, which is desirable for areas like finance or other places where structure and guardrails and predictability are essential. And if you look at this workflow, it kind of looks like you could design this visually, right? It looks like a bunch of nodes that are connected, and there's tools today to do this, right? There's low-code, no-code tools to do this. And that might be good for prototyping, but it can also be brittle. It doesn't have CI/CD attached to it. It doesn't have deployment previews. It's harder to think about how it scales. It's harder to observe. There's no version control. It's a pretty big one. But ostensibly, right, this is the next generation of software. This is what your entire businesses are going to run on, it needs production-grade infrastructure and engineering. So I believe that engineering is what's going to make the difference, because great engineering gives you both the structure and flexibility, the discipline to scale, and the freedom to adapt to your customers' needs. So just like Next.js did with the front-end cloud for developing and shipping front-ends, AI SDK and the Vercel AI Cloud are doing for developing agents and backends. The front end, however, was deterministic, much like the web itself, right? So you type in a URL and you know what you'll get back. Even if it's dynamic or hyper-personalized, there's a predictable set of code paths that are running. So this flow was consistent and repeatable. Agents, on the other hand, they don't follow a single fixed path. They autonomously reason and plan and act and adapt. So the challenge is building with the right foundation to handle that variability while still giving developers speed and reliability. So Vercel's AI Cloud gives you exactly that, the foundation and the tools. And the entry point into the AI Cloud is the AI SDK. So to tell you all about how to get started with the AI SDK, I'd like to invite my favorite Italian, Nico Albanese, to the stage.
Thanks, G. 2 years ago, we started building V0, a state-of-the-art coding agent which takes you from natural language to full-stack application in seconds. But in building V0, we ran into a number of challenges. First, we were building our application on a specific model provider's SDK. While this was great, new and improved models were coming out every few weeks, and we wanted to test them out without having to completely rewrite our application. Additionally, we started to notice different models excelling at different tasks. Some were great at design, while others were great at writing React components. We wanted to take advantage of this without having to maintain multiple different SDKs. Finally, and the most nuanced point of all, building on top of language models presents fundamentally new challenges for building both reliable and type-safe UIs. We don't know exactly what they're going to generate, and with streaming, we're only getting small chunks of that at a time. So we built the AI SDK, a TypeScript toolkit for building AI applications. With the AI SDK's unified API, we decouple your AI logic from your provider. In that way, you can switch by changing just a few lines of code. Back in July, we shipped AI SDK 5. This was the most comprehensive update we have ever made. We didn't just add features, we rebuilt the entire library from the ground up. For the first time, you get end-to-end type safety from your LLM to your UI. No matter what the model generates, whether it's text, reasoning, or tool calls, you can build type-safe UIs on top of it. We also gave you more control over your context. We now explicitly decouple your application state from what you send to the model in each request. This makes it easy to control every single token you send. Finally, we ship primitives to give you control over the agentic loop itself. As G said, agents are LLMs using tools in a loop to solve a task. But how do you control when it should stop? And what about the behavior at each of those steps? That's where stop when and prepare step comes in. These primitives give you full control over your agent's loop. You can define exactly when your agent should stop, and at each step, you can adjust context, switch models, and enable, disable, or even force a tool call, all dynamically. The response has been incredible, some even calling the AI SDK a literal piece of art. And since we launched AI SDK 5 in July, usage has nearly doubled. Thousands of developers are shipping agents to production with it every single day. And today, I'm excited to give you an early look at AI SDK 6 beta. This update represents a continued refinement of what it means to build agents with the AI SDK. We'll be shipping a number of awesome new features, but today I want to highlight two in particular. First, we're introducing the agent abstraction. You define your agent once, your model, your tools, your behavior, and then regardless of how your agent is consumed, whether it's an interactive UI or a background agent, it's simple to call and reuse. We're shipping a default implementation that calls tools in a loop, but the abstraction is completely extensible, so you can build anything you want on top of it. Second, we're introducing tool execution approval. LLMs are already incredible, but they're not always right. We don't really want to run them in YOLO mode with no guardrails. That's where tool execution approval comes in. This feature allows you to implement human-in-the-loop patterns natively. The agent asks to use a tool, and you can approve, deny, no hacking required, no workarounds. It just works. Now, enough talking. Let's build a real agent that solves a real problem. And since this is my section, I decided to solve one of mine. But which one? Well, every time we ship a new feature, and this happens a lot, thank you, team, we need to tell our users, what good is a feature if no one knows about it? So let's map out how I typically approach this. I read the pull request. I understand the feature, why we built it, and importantly, what it unlocks for our users. Then I draft a tweet, something punchy, focused on the why. Then I create a code snippet. This should be minimal while still communicating the feature's full power. Then I iterate, I refine. And once I'm happy with it, it's ready to schedule with Typefully. This sounds simple, but this is an iterative process that can take a while, sometimes up to 2 hours a day, depending on how busy the team has been. So we've got a problem, and we've defined the steps to solve it. What's next? First, we initialize our agent and specify the model we want to power it. Here, we're using Anthropic's latest Haiku model via the Vercel AI Gateway. The AI Gateway allows you to use hundreds of models across a wide range of providers with just a single API key. And it even has fallback routing built right in. Next, let's give our agent a way to act with tools. What we're doing here is simple. We're mapping each step into a tool. So first, I'm going to define one that fetches a GitHub PR and returns the key information. Next, we'll add one to get our recent tweets so the agent can learn our voice. And we'll keep doing this until we've covered all the steps of the process. I've also added web search here just in case our agent needs any more information. The last step is to tell our agent exactly how it should plan and act. Importantly, it can use any tool at any time. So that's it. Our agent is ready to run. Let's give it a pull request and test it out. So our agent begins to reason. The first step is context curation. It's using available tools to retrieve the right information, and then it generates a draft. It reviews its work against a style guide, and it agrees that it's not quite there yet, so it tries again. And with the added feedback and more context from web search, it's good to go. So the agent schedules a thread, and it's ready to publish. So we've got our tweet. And it looks pretty good, pretty much in line with how I would have done it. But it's a little scary that it can just publish without my approval. It looks good now, but there's no guarantee I'll be happy with it every time. So let's see how we can add tool execution approval. In my tool declaration, I can simply flag that this tool needs approval before executing. And that's it, one line, and we're ready to go. So this time, when it runs, and we'll jump right to when the model wants to publish, the agent stops, shows me the tweet, and waits for my approval. I'll see the intended thread, and assuming I'm happy with it, I'll approve. And just like that, my thread is published. So that's it. Human in the loop, built right in. So in just a few minutes, we've gone from a problem to a fully functional agent that solves it. Our agent runs in a loop, uses multiple tools, adapts based on feedback, and asks for human approval when it matters. AI SDK 6 is in active development and available in beta today. We'll be going stable later this year. And to learn more, you can visit v6.aisdk.dev. And now, to tell you more about how to bring your agent to production with the AI Cloud, I'd like to invite Aparna to the stage.
Thanks, Nico. Vercel is the AI cloud for everyone. Experts, novices, all of us. We build Vercel with Vercel so that you get a platform that's taste-tested, that's production-ready, but also has the right abstractions that make it easy for you to ship AI. You heard that the AI SDK came from our own pain in building V0. And when we made V0 agentic, we needed additional infrastructure that then became the AI cloud. And to exercise the AI cloud, we've created Vercel Agent. Vercel Agent is your intelligence layer for shipping on Vercel. And its first skill is AI code reviews. It reviews your PR and determines fixes, and then it uses sandbox environments to fully validate those fixes before suggesting them to you. And because it validates those fixes, they're higher quality. They're more signal and less noise and measurably more likely to be accepted by developers. It's used in production by Vercel engineers and also by our customers. You can enable it in the Agent tab of the Vercel dashboard. This is a great way of improving engineering productivity while also improving code quality. But code quality is just the first step. Vercel Agent can also now improve sleep quality. That's right, sleep quality. So say it's 2 a.m. and your site is suddenly getting a flood of traffic. You could set an anomaly alert to always let you know when this happens, even at 2 a.m. Or you could set Vercel to take an anomalous event, run a full investigation, and then based on the outcome, determine if you should be woken up or not. So today we're introducing Vercel Agent's newest skill, AI investigations. These are triggered by anomalous events in your Vercel environment, and they come with full investigations that run in the background and synthesize the context of what might have led up to that event and what might be its root cause. That's anomalous events the Vercel way, saving time for our customers so that you can sleep better. Now, Vercel Agent is an at-scale production agent that's running on the AI cloud. And in creating it, we created the necessary primitives to build any agent so that you can just ship agents. When you deploy your agent to Vercel, we use framework-defined infrastructure to find and provision the right cloud resources. You don't have to configure servers. You don't have to worry about scaling them for the underlying primitives that your agent needs. Your app is, of course, automatically built and deployed and protected by a multi-layer firewall that comes with built-in bot protection. And if there's a front end, it's served by our global CDN as a pre-rendered page with dynamic caching for optimal performance. So we've been serving front-end and full-stack apps for 10 years, and now we ship more than 1 million deployments every single day with awesome customers like Ramp, OpenAI, and more. Now, a big part of completing the AI cloud is also supporting backends on Vercel. Our customers use Vercel to host backends like background agents, MCP servers, and more. That's why Vercel now offers zero-config deployments for JavaScript server-side frameworks like Express, Nitro, and Honel. And I know that at least some of you are interested in shipping in Python, my favorite language. So if you're implementing AI backends in Python, Vercel now supports FastAPI and Flask Python frameworks with that same zero-config deployment experience. And today, we're introducing, hold the applause for this one. Today, we're introducing a native Python SDK. And this makes it easy to integrate Vercel into Python code bases. You can use it for running untrusted code in a Vercel sandbox or uploading and downloading data to the runtime cache or Vercel blob. And this is just the beginning of our work with Python. I am really excited about the agents that you'll be able to build in Python using Vercel's foundational developer experience. So we, of course, built Vercel Agent on this foundation to exercise the AI Cloud primitives. Now I'd like to take you under the hood to look at each of those primitives. So in building an agent, some of the basic primitives that you need an AI gateway. You need fluid compute. You need sandboxes, MCP servers, and more. So let's remember the life cycle of Vercel Agent. It triggers when a PR opens. And then in a loop, it reasons about that initial PR. It calls tools to inspect the diff in the context of the repository. It has to call models, and it continues to reason about potential issues. And then it acts. It generates and validates the candidate fixes. And if the fix works, it outputs the proposed fix as an inline suggestion for human approval. So these are the steps. Now, under the hood, the agent trigger, or the prompt, starts a Vercel function that then needs to call a model. But the first question is, which model should it call? And what if your model provider isn't working at that time? Or if there's a new model that shows up tomorrow or even later today that's 10 times better for your particular use case? This is where the first primitive of the AI Cloud comes in, the AI Gateway. The gateway provides access to the latest and greatest models so that you can connect to it. You don't need to have a provider account. You can use a single Vercel API key to access over 100 models. These could be your own fine-tuned models that you run on Bedrock or Grok or OpenAI, Claude, etc., and many other providers. And of course, if you prefer, you can swap your model at any time and get support for new models within hours, usually actually minutes of release. Sometimes even before release, because we support stealth models in the gateway. So this is really a gateway that connects you to the future of AI. Now, at any time, you can go to the AI Gateway leaderboard and see which model is trending and test it out in its own dedicated playground. With AI Gateway, you get higher rate limits than you would as a single user because Vercel has higher rate limits with the providers. And the gateway has automatic failover between providers. Like for Claude, for example, it can failover between Bedrock, Vertex, and Anthropic itself, so your applications always have a steady performance in production, even if one provider is slow. Of course, it comes with unified billing and observability into your usage and your performance. But best of all, with Vercel's AI Gateway, there is zero upcharge on tokens. So you just pay what you would pay to a provider for the tokens. Since GA in August, the AI Gateway now processes more than 20 billion tokens per day with over 30,000 unique customers. So now that we have this basic sturdy primitive for accessing and calling LLMs, our agents' next steps, like reasoning, tool calling, and of course taking actions, they all require dynamic compute, a different kind of compute, because typically during LLM calls, agent-associated compute is sitting idle. It's waiting, and with reasoning, it's waiting some more. And so for this, we've invented the next primitive of the AI Cloud, and this one is really unique to Vercel. This is Vercel's fluid compute. This is serverless compute that's available all of the time, but only charges you when the CPU is actually used with a low flat memory charge. You don't pay for the idle time waiting for models or tools or humans. And regardless of how long your LLM thinks and reasons, you pay only for active CPU and a flat memory charge. This is true serverless compute for the AI era. Now let's look further at tool calling. It's 2025, and our agent is a highly capable agent that uses the model context protocol to call relevant tools. Fluid compute is also ideal for hosting those remote MCP servers. And that means that you can create and host efficient MCP servers that are not only easy to deploy, they benefit also from that elastic, low-cost, efficient fluid compute. And that's why companies like to host MCP servers on Vercel, companies like Upstash, Solana, Smithery, and many others. So now let's talk about actions next. Agents often generate code, and that code takes a variety of actions. It can create artifacts, And you, of course, want to execute the code and see what it does. But LLM-generated code is obviously untrusted. You don't want to give it access to your production environment. And so it needs to run somewhere isolated and secure. This is the next primitive of the AI cloud, Vercel Sandbox. Sandbox runs workloads inside micro VMs. And that gives you the ability to execute untrusted code or resource-intensive code safely without risking the rest of your system. So now the act step can be fast and secure and production ready. Now, perhaps the best feature of Vercel sandboxes is that they run on fluid compute. This is really nice because you can scale them up and down on demand and yet pay only for the active CPU. That means, again, if the sandbox is waiting, there is no cost for that idle time. That's pretty unique, and our customers really love it. All right, so we've covered reasoning, we've covered tool calling, and we've covered actions. You might think that we're done. We've got an agent. But really, this was just one iteration of an agentic execution. And this agent could have many loops and many steps that run across multiple branches. It could be a deterministic agent or a dynamic set of steps. It may need to think and work for minutes or days, or if there's humans in the loop, it might even take weeks or longer. Agents obviously need to pause, they need to wait for input, they need to retry on errors, and then resume. So what we really need is a durable primitive, durability over time. And that does not come that easily with serverless functions because serverless functions are short duration, event-driven compute. So to solve this problem, today we're combining the world of serverless functions with durability. We're introducing a new framework for building workflows. And to tell you all about it, please welcome to the stage Pranay Prakash.
Thanks so much, Aparna. Yeah, it used to be that you would just make one request to an LLM and kind of hope for the best. But like Aparna said, agents are starting to get smarter. You now have to reason and make tool calls, talk to an MCP server, maybe respond to external events and wait for human approval. But as agents are getting smarter and run for longer, the infrastructure to put them into production is getting really complex. You've got to manually wire up all of these queues and add a database, add up resiliency and maintain observability. But like G said, we've seen this movie before. Companies that we love have faced challenges scaling into production. So take a company like Uber, for example. When you request a ride, you've got to find a driver and calculate pricing, talk to a data warehouse and a payment processor. So companies like Uber put each of those steps into their own microservice. Great, but what's next? You now have to wire up all of these queues and add a database, add resiliency, and maintain observability once again. These challenges aren't unique to agents. We've seen this before. And managing all of the infra is just a lot of code, a lot of very brittle code. But what if it wasn't? What if all of that complexity of orchestrating microservices across the internet to request a ride, or the complexity of running an AI agent that's got tool calls and MCP servers and responding to external events, what if all of that was just a single function? We've managed to compress all of the complexity of durable execution into a single line of code. I'm really excited to announce the Workflow Development Kit. It's a new open source framework for building durable, reliable, and observable apps and AI agents in TypeScript. I'll show you how it works. I'm going to take the same agent that Nico built earlier, and we're going to wrap it with use workflow. This effectively lets the entire function be durable. And so we were inspired by Next.js's directives with use workflow, but we've built this to work across every framework. Use workflow lets the framework know that my function might suspend,
and run certain steps in the background. It's kind of simple, but this feels like a superpower, right? I can now write a function that splits work across multiple different processes, and you're not tied to a single process. It's effectively what microservices are. Now, to split up the work, I'll need to define steps. And as you can probably guess, we have another directive, useStep. useStep lets you mark functions in your workflow that need to run in the background. And for AI agents, most of the work of making a request to an LLM and executing tools. So I'll start by making each tool a step. And I do that using useStep. Simple. Now, the workflow dev kit compiles every single step into its own API route so it can run in the background. Back in my workflow, I'm going to update the tool call to use my new steps. This way, when the agent calls a step, the tool gets run on a separate API route in the background and uses a queue in the middle for resiliency. Cool, now my workflow is all set up, and I want to execute this. During execution, every time the workflow encounters a step, it's going to suspend the workflow and run the step in the background over a queue. If the step fails, it automatically gets retried till it inevitably succeeds. And when the step is done, the framework can resume right where it left off, rehydrating state from the event log. This means you can just write one single function, and you don't have a long server. There's no long-running servers, and you don't lose all of your tokens if a single step broke. This is what orchestrating complex microservices wishes it could be. Also, thanks to the same event log, all your workflows are observable by default, which means you can now inspect every run, every step, every LLM call with world-class observability, and there's no extra code. This just comes built in. This is what LLM tracing really should have been. The workflow development kit is open source, and we're building it to work on any cloud platform. If you do deploy it from Vercel, Vercel will automatically provision the right resources needed to run your workflows with zero configuration. On the AI cloud, your workflows run on scalable functions made efficient with fluid compute. Also, since every Vercel deployment is atomic, you get versioning for free out of the box. This means you don't have to worry about breaking workflows, some of which might be running for months. You can just keep shipping. Also, Vercel provides visibility into the event log, so you get incredible tracing and workflow management on the Vercel dashboard. At Vercel, we're already running over 1 million workflows a day for products like V0, our own Vercel agent, and for a few early adopting customers like Mandolin, who are shipping healthcare workflows with the AI SDK and the workflow dev kit. So with workflows, you can now just ship agents. And you can get started today on NPM by installing workflow. We're shipping with support for Nitro, Next.js, and Hono, with a lot more frameworks coming very, very soon. Awesome. That's the workflow dev kit. And to bring it all together to run real-world AI agents on the AI cloud, let me invite Malta.
Good morning, San Francisco. And thanks, Pranay. I literally saw him push commits to this repository like during Aparna's talk right before the session. Incredible. And I definitely cannot wait to use workflow all over my code base. All right. Now you've heard how the AI SDK builds a foundation for agents, how the new open source use workflow makes your code durable and more robust, and it's being the perfect baseline for building agents. And we've seen these come together with the Vercel AI Cloud, a unified platform for running those agents in production with reliability and scale built in. Now, not every agent must be built from scratch. Sometimes there's an agent as a service that is perfect for what you need. That's why we're introducing the Agent Marketplace for AI agents and tools built for the Vercel ecosystem. This is where developers can discover, install, and connect to pre-built agents and tools that run natively on the AI cloud. We're partnering for this with, for the agents, CodeRabbit, Corridor, and Sorcery. AI services, Autonoma, Braintrust, browser use, chat-based, Dscope, kernel, Cubics, and Mixprat to bring these agentic experiences to your teams. All right. That is it for the agent marketplace. Let's get back to actually building agents. We now know how to build agents with the AI SDK and use workflow. We even know where to deploy them with the AI Cloud. But what agents should you actually build? In many cases, your biggest opportunities come from custom agents that solve the exact problems unique to your business. I think of agents as a new kind of software. And with new software, we need to rebuild our intuition for what can be automated. Here's a tactic that works incredibly well to find out what to build. Go and interview your employees and ask them 2 simple questions. What do you hate most about your job? And what busy work would you love to never do again? And then you build exactly that. For the employees, it means more fulfilling work. And for the company, it means that large chunk of repetitive tasks are replaced by agents that cost less to run and often produce higher quality results because they do not get bored. We did exactly that inside of Vercel. We went department by department and wowed at folks of stories. I guarantee that you can do the same at your company. It'll be eye-opening. And if you're a startup, I know there's many in the audience, this is also a powerful way to discover what agent as a service to ship next. All right, the first stop we made as we were going to the company is we went to our go-to-market department. They told us whenever a lead comes in through the contact sales form, we spend up to 15 minutes enriching the data before we can even follow up. And how do you do that? Well, I look up their LinkedIn, sure. I Google the company, obviously. And then I copy-paste, because it's 2025, and you use copy-paste, that stuff in the spreadsheet. Easily 15 minutes of busy work for every single lead. So we built a lead processing agent. Here's how it works. It all starts, again, with a contact sales form. Appreciate it if anyone in the audience has already filled this out. Thank you very much. Then when a lead hits submit, that triggers the workflow. Let's take a closer look what happens. First, we kick off the main agent, which performs the core of the reasoning. It starts with initial checks to easily filter out spam messages, low-quality submissions, and support requests. Turns out people love submitting support requests through this form. Now they get much faster responses because we can easily identify it and actually guide those contacts to the right support folks. Then it independently researches the contact of the company, Google them, check the LinkedIn, exactly what the human would have done. That is actually implemented by triggering a sub-agent under the hood. But what is a sub-agent? Just a tool that happens to call an LLM, right? Very, very simple stuff. All right, now let's assume the agent has made it this far. The lead is a qualified lead. What it does, it generates a draft follow-up for the sales rep to then take and make their own, because we still want the human touch, right? And then go and send it to the customer. And finally, it returns the results back to our internal dashboard in Salesforce, everyone loving Salesforce. All right, cool. So this agent has been live at Vercel for months. It already saved us hundreds of person days of work and got our frontline sales team a more fulfilling job. And we want you guys all to be able to do the same as well. So we're open sourcing it today. The whole point is that you very much have to adapt it to your own internal pipelines, right? It's our custom agent. But we think it's a great basis to kind of get started and know how to build an agent. All right, so this was the making money GTM agent, but not every agent must be protecting growth, right? Some protect it. Turns out that the Vercel platform has processed over 400 million deployments in the last year. And with that scale, sometimes bad apples try to slip through with stuff like phishing agents, scams, or impersonations. That's where our abuse agent comes in. It helps our trust and safety team review reports automatically and make faster, more consistent decisions. Here's what it does. Once again, there's an abuse form on the website where you can report potential malicious or illegal activity. For large-scale reporters, we also have an API. In both cases, the same thing happens. It triggers the agent on every new entry. That, once again, there's a pattern here, kicks off the main agent processing loop, which gathers context about the reported project, obviously, looks at the deployed assets, checks the team data, which domains to register, the payment info, that type of stuff. And then it identifies signals of abuse, like known visual indicators, probably not a Meta Facebook phishing site on our website, or suspicious patterns besides that. And then finally, it summarizes the findings with a confidence score and recommends an action, like blocking, okay, manual review where the agent doesn't quite know what to do, or it says it's a false positive, nothing to do here. Then it writes that structured output straight into Salesforce, where the team can see it instantly. Now, as a hosting provider, our main responsibility obviously is to keep your site up. So we don't trust this agent to make the final block decision. We always have a human in the loop. The abuse agent shows you how agents can scale not just workflows, but actually decision making. Since we deployed it, we've seen a 59% reduction in time per case. And now, because there's a bit of a cat and mouse game happening with the bad folks, right? We're not actually open sourcing it today, but this is interesting. Just come talk to us, and we are super happy to help you get started with similar stuff. All right. Again, we're walking department by department. Let's talk about data, because every company has data, right? And you've probably been in this place where like you're looking for this dashboard, you know it exists, but you can't find it, or you actually know that the data has never been retrieved. What do you do in that case, right? Now, if you're in this room, maybe you're comfortable writing some SQL yourself, but what really happens in a real company is that you ask some centralized data team, right, to gather the data. Now, maybe that takes a few days, but maybe it never happens because they don't have capacity. They're constantly busy. So we were wondering, can we just fully automate it? Can I just go into Slack, for example, and ask for data? And yeah, so we built a Slack agent for business intelligence. It's actually really good at turning natural semantic understanding of your business into SQL queries and answering questions about it. Now you might wonder, how is this better than like a more generic text to SQL tool? The whole point is that this is a custom agent. We taught about our business, the semantic of our business, and that makes it substantially better than something more generic that only has seen your schema. So here's what it means. You ask the question and the bot replies. There's no more waiting on the data team, right? So again, you start with a data query prompt from Slack. Agent does the reasoning, plans which data to look at, and then builds a query with the right tables and columns. Now again, we actually custom built this so that the agent knows the curated semantic catalog about the schema of our business. Then it executes the query, obviously, and finally summarize the results to human-readable format. Afterwards, it just goes back to the original Slack thread with the answer to the question. I previously mentioned that we have 400 million deployments in a year. I actually used it on Saturday to exactly answer that question. And just like the lead agents earlier, we are open sourcing this agent. And once again, we're making it available so that you can build your own custom agent. It will absolutely require adapting to your internal pipeline. And the whole point is that it requires documenting the semantics of your own data model. But it should form a great reference architecture for how to design an agentic loop for business intelligence tools. These are just a few examples. There's a whole universe of agents waiting to be built. Our goal today was to show you what's possible and inspire you to think about what agents to move your business forward. To recap, the question, what do you hate most about your job, is incredibly powerful to find out what agents to build because it leads to the low-hanging fruit of agents. It gives you problems that form the sweet spot of current Gen AI, which actually isn't that smart, and its high business impact. All right. With that, we know, especially large enterprise, that building that first successful agent can still feel daunting. That's why we're launching a new program called An Agent on Every Desk. Our mission is simple: help your company build its first successful agent. We'll work with you directly to identify the right agent to build, share the templates from our own internal agents, and forward deploy our engineers to your company to get that first agent shipped. That's all from me today. Thank you very much.